What?
Hit the gavel again.
No, because there's not much people here.
All right.
We'll get Carla.
Okay. She's my favorite.
You were relegated.
So just, if you pull yes, you got it.
Oh, it's yours. This is we had a trailer.
We were in the transportation building.
Right.
It's still there. It's not gonna be there another year or so.
Carla. All right, we're ready to come back to open session. Sound good?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Can everyone else? Okay, then let's go. May I have a motion to return to open session?
I'll move that we return to open session.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Carla,
Aye.
Joe,
Yes.
Lizzie,
Yes.
Jennifer, Renee,
Yes.
Nasima, and David.
Yes.
Okay. The open session of the July 25th, 2019 Governing Board meeting of Woodland Community Consolidated School District 50 will now come to order. Roll call, please.
Joe,
Here.
Lizzie,
Here.
Jennifer, Renee,
Here.
Nasima, David,
Here.
Carla.
Here.
We have quorum.
Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May I have a motion to approve the agenda with a modification? I'd like to move item 14B to next month's agenda. Item 14B is related to the discussion of member representation in state and national organizations, and I'd like to move that to August meeting so that all of the board members can be present to discuss those assignments.
I approve of the suggested change in the agenda, waiting on 14B for next meeting.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote.
Lizzie,
Yes.
Jennifer, Renee, Nasima, David,
Yes.
Carla,
Aye.
Joe.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay. Then Dr. Svoboda will give a presentation on the FY20 Strategic Plan Goals, Year 2.
Thanks, everybody. My goal, our goal as a leadership team, is to spend just a couple of minutes celebrating what we accomplished in year 1, and then forecast for you what our plans are for year 2. And please ask me any questions as we're going along. So, year 1 accomplishments. The board, the community set its mission and vision, and then we researched the effective practices for professional development. Now, in our plan, we were supposed to provide ways to add time. This had to take a pause button because we made the decisions about the new start time. So now that those decisions are made, you will see more about that in a bit. The research was done. The board is well aware in our community of the outstanding work that Dr. Thomas, Mrs. Gutierrez, and the team have done, just beginning those conversations on equity, implicit bias. We had a terrific year of training, and we'll forecast for you what's happening in year 2 of the plan. Our legislative advocacy, thanks to Dr. Casey, Mr. Bobek, our board members, Lizzie, Joe, Carla, former board member Terry Hall, that were down at conference, got pretty far with legislative Representative Chris Welsh to almost abolish the State Charter School Commission, but we'll continue on our path this year. And then Chris and Don had put together our 5-year capital plan, and we're implementing it. And we have air conditioning at the primary school this summer. Yay! Carla, we have Ann Goldbach and Margaret Breitzman are in the audience tonight. So just your former board colleagues are here. So, next one. So, moving on. Huge accomplishment. Planning for the change in the start times and implementing this year. So congratulations to the whole school community. Our restorative practices that Dr. Casey, Dr. Vandenbroek, and all our schools work towards, those are having those better conversations with our children so they can reflect on their behaviors in a more respectful way to work with our children. You all have seen a couple of presentations on that. And, from April that this year we're implementing our new district brand, Life in the W. Take a breath, everybody. So in 11 short months, all of that was accomplished. Great, great work. So if anyone's on the tape, I just want to thank the administrative team and all the staff because it would not have happened without them. So shout out to them. So what's up for this year? In our 5-6 focus areas for differentiated instruction, I gotta say, guys, they had done the research last year on rebooting DI and what should differentiated instruction look like in the common definition. So this year, we're talking about re-energizing district-wide tools to talk about what the students' learning styles are. We have them pocketed, but we really need to get back to basics with differentiation. That's how we're going to improve our student learning. And then working on common formative assessments, meaning all the children at the same grade take the same test so we can get that benchmark data. Questions on that committee? Okay. Positive personal connections with students. 3 key things, and Laura, jump in at any time, please. Restorative practices at intermediate this year. We're rolling up.
We're ready.
And Laura, can you speak to a little bit more about Tiffany's work on number 2? The social emotional training that
Sure. One piece is Tiffany Drake, our new principal at middle school. She feels very strongly about culture and changing and working with the teachers on culture. So she's working on some monthly training with staff that she'll be coordinating and doing with members of her team about relationships and getting relationships right. It's a model that she's familiar with. So as any of you have seen her train, she's a very inspirational, amazing trainer. So we're excited about her leading that cause.
Absolutely. And then working more in our tiered services, our tier 3 supports, continuing the work that Dr. Vandenberg, our principals, led by Lori Casey, working with our outside agencies and providing that whole wraparound for our most needy children, both academically and behaviorally. Questions? Implementing school start times, it's happening. Great news, the MyStop bus tracking app. We are investigating whether or not we can beta test that with our early start program, but it will be ready to roll out the start of the school year. Our new communications manager, Brooke Hooker, is working with our transportation director, and we will have more information available for parents if you are and how-tos. With respect to measuring our outcomes on the start time data, as we've talked and pledged to our community all along, we need to get through a whole first year to see how it is working. Any large-scale implementation, you have to take 2 or 3 years. You can't do one and done. So next year, Dr. Casey and her team will be measuring FY19s at the middle school, their attendance rates, grades, and health office visits during the first period, and looking at that after this next year. So we have the baseline data secured, and you'll be looking at them more as a school community next summer, next fall, and then we'll work to get stakeholder feedback. Can I get a pulse check from the board? Does that make sense to wait the full year before we talk to the community? Do you want to see something different?
No, I think it makes a lot of sense for people to have time to get adjusted, to get smoothed out, and for the district to have time to get used to it also, to make all of the accommodations that are necessary or changes or adjustments along the way. That makes sense to me.
I think if you do it too soon, you'll still be in the complaint mode because they will not have had time to fully adjust and figure it all out, and that's not what you want.
That's what we thought too. Carla, does that, any questions on that? That we'll measure the data next summer, next fall after it's implemented for a year?
Yes.
Okay, well, wonderful. The next one, very, very important. We don't have our financial stability. We can't do all these amazing pieces for children. So Chris and the leadership team are working on those 5 pieces you see up there. 2 I want to call out to you, and that is continuing our analysis of our class size goals, which you'll see Dr. Thomas will talk about tonight, but have some conversations around that. Are there any adjustments that need to be made to our staffing plan to address and teach the children we have now, and then trying to find different ways that we can save money so we can continue to do the excellent educational programs we have. Chris, anything else you can?
No, I think we've talked a bit about where we're at financially and what our short-term and long-term needs are and how we can potentially achieve those.
I won't be here with you at the August meeting, but Chris has some potentially good news for you in August about that FY20 budget, so stay tuned. He's working hard on it. The gap that we had, Chris is getting it much smaller. And then the gap at like 1.1, 1.2 is, he's got it cut by about 75% right now. And this is the PD one, as I spoke about in the beginning. The outcome here is that the committee will have some options for you to consider about ways to add time or reframe professional development in general. Lori's got a lot of great ideas to be investigated about ways that might work better for parents too. So you'll see that in December, January timeframe for this school year. And last but not least, we're implementing our Life in the W brand this year, working on consistency with the message. And then the bottom triangle, that's really the new piece in our strategic plan. Our plan talks about ways to celebrate the successes of our children and our staff. You know, we do so many amazing work and our children are so accomplished, and I don't know that we all don't think we do the best job selling ourselves. So really this year, the focus is about shouting out to our community about how amazing we are, and that will help with property values, maybe it will help with the flight to Prairie Crossing. So that's the new piece of the branding this year in a general sense. And that's it. A lot of excitement along the way in year 2. And I'm closing as I'm walking back. As you saw in the board packet, we are setting up with our facilitator, Bob Madonia, to get the community back together November-ish, to have a community meeting to do a more in-depth version of successes and touch points with them so they stay committed and they know that we're implementing the will of the community.
The only thing I would add, Joy, is that a lot of the things we're discussing and focusing on this coming year are in an exact alignment with the National School Board Association goals. So, you know, the public education piece, the equity piece, professional development. So they're all really, when you look at what the National School Board Association is telling boards to focus on, we're doing it. So that's exciting.
Exciting. Thank you. Good point.
And the focus on differentiated instruction is really exciting too. And that's going to be great with the class sizes and with everything that we're working on. It'll be really big. It'll be fun. Okay. All right, so citizen statements. Citizens are...
Oh, I'm sorry, before we move on, I didn't hear much about the equity. I'm not quite sure I understood
Oh,
happening with
where
the
did that slide go?
No, it was in there. It was in there.
Oh. Okay, so Carla, what we've done, I'm sorry, I went too fast past that slide. What we've done is we've set up a partnership, and Dr. Thomas can speak to it more directly because he's our key piece, but the name of the organization is the Midwest Equity.
Midwest and Plains Equity Assistance Center.
And we qualified for this level of support from a professional development standpoint because of our low socioeconomic numbers. And they were amazed with the work that we were already doing. It wasn't an automatic, and in a couple seconds I'm going to turn it over to Steve. He had to submit a lot of information, and they chose us as much as us choosing them because they saw the path that we were on to try to change the conversation around equity, so they decided to partner with us.
Yeah, I think pretty accurate there. I think they saw a lot of the work that we were doing and saw a commitment by the whole entire district. We were just on many of us were just on a call with them just the other day, just kind of solidify that. We've signed and sent off an MOU, and it's a great thing. I think you can see on that slide is majority of that's going to be completely free because it is federally funded, this center. So all we're going to need to pay for is some transportation costs, of either when they're coming out to work with our staff or when we're traveling out to Indianapolis. It's through Indiana University, Indianapolis/Purdue. I'm not sure the exact title of their, but that's all through Indianapolis right there. So everyone we spoke to, pretty much it's doctor everywhere. So it does get a little repetitive, trying to figure out who's who. But there are some very thoughtful people who have been in this for a long time, and we certainly also get the benefit of some grad student work from time to time. So that's always a nice little benefit to have added on. So I'm really looking forward to it. There's 2 steps. Step 1 is that we're really going to build the capacity of some of our leadership team here. And step 2 is then working on a needs assessment or a needs analysis of our district. And that's going to include some observational time as well as some data review that's going to be done by a smaller group of widespread stakeholders really to look at that data and provide some feedback to us. But they'll train us all on how to use those tools.
For board members, would you like us, this week's communication has gone out, but for next week, we can put in a copy of the MOU for you to develop the background, because I think you'd be really excited to see where they're helping take us. Would you like a copy?
Sure.
Yes, please.
That'd be great.
Okay, wonderful.
The only other thing I would add with that is one of the reasons they did accept us was because of the board's commitment to this area. So when we filled out applications, many of the questions were regarding and they specifically asked us, even in our phone call, what is your board's commitment to this? How long has your board been committed to this? So without your support, we would not have gotten this, because that was a big component. They understood that it has to be part of policy. It has to be part of your procedures. So that to me was a huge piece, that they knew that we were serious about it.
It was awesome, and they were very complimentary with Monday, Tuesday, whatever day we had our call, that we had already made changes to our board policies based upon the equity work. I think it was the lead doctor. She was so surprised that you did this all in a year. It was exciting. So.
Okay. Anything else? We're good? Okay.
Thanks, Carla.
All right, so citizen statements. Citizens are provided time to address the board. The Board of Education respectfully requests that individuals limit comments or questions to 2 minutes, and if requested, the board will respond in writing. Do we have any citizen statements? Okay. Margaret Breitzman?
Good job. That's me. Can I not use a mic, and can I sit here?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, I have a gym voice, so everybody should be able to hear me.
Okay.
Okay, so I came tonight primarily because I wanted to give an opinion or tell everybody how the changed start times affect my family. And a little background for the ones in the room who don't know me. I have lived here since 1983. My 4 children went to Woodland, and now a grandchild who I am responsible for goes to Woodland. Pre-Dr. Little, I was on the board here for 8 years. That was so long ago that it was pre-Dr. Swoboda.
Yeah.
And I have always followed what Woodland is doing. I'm now in my retirement job, which is in another school district, and I'm an NEA and IEA member. I've negotiated a bunch of contracts for this district, with this district. I feel like I get it as a parent, as an educator, as a board member, as a union member. I get a lot of perspectives with this. And I feel like I was well educated. This has been going back a long time. There's been a lot of interest for maybe 2 years, maybe 3, but it goes back many years that the board has been in some way talking about this. And I'm not sure, I read all the research that the board sent, or the district office sent out. I read my own research, and I really did read it. For the middle school ages of, help me, I think I'm right, 11, 12, 13, right? Not sure about the research because it really, I think, starts a little bit older. But regardless, Woodland changes many ways over and over. And for my family, it's excellent. I have a intermediate building, a 4th grader in dual language, and have him get home later is absolutely wonderful because I can get home before he does. Now, last year, when as a 3rd grader, he went to the intermediate building, I was not very happy because it put him home almost an hour earlier, and we had to scramble for aftercare. And you all know how expensive aftercare is. I went to Dr. Swoboda and I said, I'm having to pay for a half an hour. I'm paying over $300 a month. And that's when she worked with Champions, I think, and they came up with the short timers. So you could go till 4:30, I think. Didn't work out for my family, but I'm hopeful it worked out for other families. So.
And Dr. Casey
Okay.
was instrumental in helping
My contact was with you
yes.
since I know you. So I get all sides of it. I do think the board has to be very cognizant of how many community members depend on older children to help out their family with childcare. I think it may be more than what people realize. For me, though, I get out of my other district at 3:30, so by the time the 4th grader will be home at 4:15 or 4:20, I'm well home, and that is such a relief for me. Before care at Hunt Club with the Park District stays the same. I drop him off at the same time. I'll be paying the same amount, but he'll be there for longer. But they have a gym with structured activities, so he's having sort of an hour and a half of PE before school. I think that's great. So the Union Federation of Teachers put out a Facebook blurb today asking people to come and say how it affected their family, and I thought a lot of people would be here, but they're not, and so I just figured I'd be honest. I know it's not going to be in the community a very popular opinion, but for me, it's bravo.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for coming.
All right. So we'll move on to consent agenda. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second?
Discussion? Roll call vote.
Jennifer, Renee,
Yes.
Nasima, David,
Yes.
Carla,
Aye.
Joe,
Yes.
Lizzie.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay. So on to the action items. Our first action item is the approval of dual language social studies curriculum and materials adoption. May I have a motion to approve the purchase of National Geographic's World and U.S. History series for Woodland's 6th and 7th grade dual language teams at a cost of $71,268.75.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call vote.
Renee,
Yes.
Nasima, David,
Yes.
Carla,
Aye.
Joe,
Yes.
Lizzie,
Yes.
Jennifer. Motion carries 5-0.
Our second action item is the approval of amendment to Siemens performance contract. May I have a motion to approve Amendment 3 to the May 17th, 2015 performance contract agreement with Siemens Industry, Inc. to include a boiler replacement and 3 security cameras at the middle school for a cost of $286,915.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call vote.
Nasima, David,
Yes.
Carla,
Aye.
Joe,
Yes.
Lizzie,
Yes.
Jennifer, Renee.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, on to reports and discussion items. The first item is report and presentation on monitoring of class size goals. In September 2017, the board took action to lower class size goals to ensure opportunities for teachers to develop and foster relationships with all students in their classrooms. Administration's provided a written report in our packets, including analyzed various data points to measure the efforts of the initiative, and Dr. Steve Thomas will provide a presentation of the data. Dr. Thomas.
All right, well, good evening, everyone. So I'll present to you just a summary. I think I have in your packet a little bit more detailed report, which kind of goes into the reasons, the contributions or conclusions I've reached. So hopefully you'll find that. You can certainly shadow that as I go along the presentation. I'll kind of follow that format. Otherwise, this is the inaugural summary metrics of the Class Size Reduction Initiative of 2018. Oh, good, it worked. Good. I know I have a short tether here, so. Also, if I'm supposed to stretch out the meeting, we're going on time. We're a little early, so.
No, we're good.
All right, I'll keep it going. All right.
It's Liz's birthday.
Yeah, it's Lizzie's birthday. Want to keep going?
Oh, it's moving along. Okay. So I just want to first share out the actual information. So had we not done anything, we would have remained with our class size goals that were set up there for up in the 2017-2018, which we had is set as really a max of 25 students in kindergarten, 25 in first through third, and then 26 and 27 in fourth through sixth. With the changes that were made and approved by the board, we went down to the 15 to 18 range for kindergarten, 18 to 21 in first and third grade, 21 to 24 in fourth through sixth grade. And then what actually happened, did we actually change? Yes, we totally did change. These are the averages of 4 classrooms in just June, just last month, as students left. You can tell we were certainly in all of those ranges, 16.8 as an average, and then 17.8, 19.7, you can read the rest of the numbers. I do want to talk a little bit about the qualifiers, though. I have them more in the bottom. There's going to be a lot of qualifiers in this report and presentation. Certainly understand that there's a lot of things that we just need to make sure that we're clear on. One of those is that we pulled out dual language and self-contained special education classrooms out of that because that would skew the numbers. We really only looked at core classrooms. Dual language classrooms need to be at 90% of the class size average of core classrooms, so putting them in would skew it low, and the same thing with special education. Those are both bound more by ISBE administrative code than anything else. And then the last thing is, you'll notice that we only went through sixth grade. Just a reminder that when we initially approved this, we only approved through sixth grade, and we're going to be rolling up into seventh grade this year and then eighth grade the following year. So while we have those numbers, the actual experience is a little bit different depending on who you were in our community. If you were a teacher, you did see class size changes dropping about 2, in some cases down to 5 students less than what you had the year before. That's a really clear difference in what you saw as far as students are concerned. But with students and parents, it was a little bit different because as we matriculate students up grade levels, obviously we increase grade levels. So through the mysteriousness of math in some ways, many cases, students did not see necessarily a drop or decline in class sizes from the class they were before. It's just a function of that matriculation as we go up and as we increase class sizes as we go up. I have in the report that you have in front of you a much more detailed piece of information to kind of demonstrate that. But most class sizes saw about a 1 student drop, and the ones that didn't see much of a decline, the other ones did see more than 2 or more students. But remember that it would be much higher had we not done any change. So really what is really the difference from the student-parent perspective is a theoretical drop that didn't have to happen, or a theoretical non-increase that we didn't have to take care of. The fiscal impact, we had about 27 teachers, an exact amount actually, about $1.4 million, just a little bit over that. Subsequent years, obviously we'll be continuing that $1.4 million. Those will be impacted though by lane and step, actual true salary costs of individuals on a salary, on the salary schedule, as well as enrollment and section adjustments. And this year I think we came down 3 or 4 classrooms off of that rough range, I believe, when we presented in January. So we did see a small decline, and that's due to enrollment really. So we're still adjusting based upon our enrollments. And then lastly, that $1.4 million obviously does have a long-term impact on our budget, and I think Mr. Rebecca has presented on that. We'll continue to present on that. Okay, qualifiers, more qualifiers. So I just really want to emphasize this. There are simultaneous independent acts at numerous levels happening throughout our system at every time. So as a result, it's really hard to say one particular thing had this impact. It's hard to say that this thing that we did produced this, because there's so many other things going on at the same time. And obviously it would be unethical to create a system where we had a control group of students that didn't experience any change just so we could measure it. That would certainly not be ethical. We can't do that. So just understand that it's going to be very difficult to really pull this out and say this was the result of this. And then conclusions, they're coming from really my lens. So I certainly understand you may have an alternative conclusion because you're going to have different set of backgrounds, different set of priorities, a different lens set. So I certainly understand and welcome, other conclusions. So taking a look at the academic metrics, we really narrowed it down to these two specific things. Again, I have background information that's in your report there. But math growth, looking at 2nd through 6th grade, we did see some strong math growth. There was definitely some strong increases on the math side, but really not so much on the reading side. And really, as we take a look into a little bit further into the math side, there was some initiatives that were going on that, if you ask me, probably had more of an impact on the math growth than necessarily class size. And that was a process of guided math that we're using that was really initiated through the Elementary West and kind of carried into Elementary East as well. Those numbers specifically, when you look at that school, did really increase over the previous year. So I would really say that a lot of that growth we attribute to that. 6th grade, I go into a little more detail in the report, but 6th grade, there's a lot of stuff going on. One of the things that's happening in 6th grade is they had one of the biggest declines. So if you were a 6th grade teacher, you saw almost a 5-student drop between last year's class and this year's class. Some of that's a function of just we have to drop by team. Can't just drop one individual teacher to kind of make the numbers nice. You have to drop by team. So by doing that, we got a little bit below that class size average than what we normally would have been. So we have that going on. So that's definitely a positive, and I certainly think that really led to some of the positive numbers that you see in 6th grade. But there's some other things too that led to that. And one of those is dual language, which obviously is now in its highest grade levels in 6th grade. And through research, we really think that this is supposed to be the year that we're starting to see that pay off in dual language. So that 6th grade, 7th grade years are when we see that. And when I look at the dual language performance, there were some very strong growth in that mid-60s for all the dual language students. So as an average. So that's really solid, both on the reading and the math side. So that certainly contributed. So I think there's a lot to that on the math side. So it's really hard to say that we saw a contribution in math scores based on class size because there's just so much other things going on. We used the BAS, or this is a benchmark assessment system, and that we did see some strong improvements, and we did also see some large declines in class sizes in the lower grade levels. So some of that is certainly aligned to that. We did change the actual assessment in kindergarten, but still measured really based upon the standard for kindergarten expectations at the end of the year. So that still, we saw some really strong growth, and even on the 1st grade side, with our N's over 500, to see some improvement percentage-wise, I think that's pretty notable. So in that case, I really do think that we can say that the drop in class size, especially being so precipitous in those grade levels, did contribute to those higher performance scores. Attendance, these are social emotional metrics. Attendance rate. So this is a number that the ISBE determines. They take all of our students throughout the entire year and they look at their attendance throughout the entire year, come up with these massive numbers, and then give you a percentage. So the N is really, really high. And in this case, last year we had an attendance rate of 94.0, and then that actually went up to 94.8. And on the surface, that looks, oh, that's great. But when you ask a couple of questions to dig a little deeper, it kind of breaks down a little bit. Actually, where the greatest increase in attendance rate was at the middle school, where we only had one grade level that would be included in this. The other 2 grade levels are not. At the primary school, where we had one of our largest declines in class sizes, we actually had a decline in the attendance rate. Now, since their N is really small, they don't really contribute that much to the overall, but they still did see a decline. So the other numbers at elementary and intermediate weren't really that much changed. So while it looks on the surface like it would be a contributor, I can't really say it is. Check-in, check-out, though, definitely was. So this is a Tier 2 process that we use for to help improve behavior and really connection with students. So students come in the morning, they are connected with an adult, they check in, they have a specific list of activities that they're really focused on behaviorally, and there's a one-to-one connection with an adult in the morning. And then throughout the day, they do their thing, they're following what's on their specific checklist. At the end of the day, they check in with that adult. So we look at success. Did kids at least get 80% of what they were supposed to accomplish that day as being success? And when we looked at that information, the information was very solid, and that's, again, in your report. So I think that definitely did have some contribution to.
Steve, can I add
Yeah.
one thing? So when the board made this decision, they knew, and you all have said for 2 years, you're not going to get to the achievement until you get to the relationship. That was your other primary focus in your whole strategic plan and for low and class size schools. So this one and the pieces, the feedback from the parents and the teachers, you'll see that the staff measured it as being successful because they have more time to develop those relationships.
Absolutely.
So you got part one, part, you got the academic part, you guys got to get there.
Right. So then we look at referral data. So this is referrals from the classroom to the office. And this is kind of confounding to me, honestly. I did expect to see kind of a different number than what the actual data came out. And there really was not a positive indicator on that. So I would really say no contribution. I go into a little bit more detail in the report there. So then we look at some other relationship metrics. And so this differentiation of instruction was a survey that we surveyed out all of our staff members. And I did narrow it down to only the data that's in your report is narrowed down to just teachers that were in the same position the previous year and that were here last year and then this year, and only that taught in grades K through 6. So the data you're looking at is filtered down to just that. And from that, the responses by teachers was extremely positive. They do feel like there was a lot of things they were able to accomplish as far as relationships and connections with kids as well as academic supports directly related to the reduction in class size. Parent communication was focus groups that I set up. I had set up some focus groups with the Dual Language Committee as well as several PTA messages. You might have seen those go out. And here there was some very specific examples that some parents did have. There was a set of series of questions. We did just kind of foster some conversation and kind of collect information. There was some specifics there, but there were some other kind of just generalities of parents not really necessarily having a specific example or a connection. And some of that I kind of attribute to 2 things. One is that when you looked at, again, that parent and student perspective, many of them didn't really see much of a change. I did hear more comments really from first grade parents and from a little bit older students. So those are connecting to the numbers of the changes. What they did talk about, for those that were PTA parents, about, hey, it seems less hectic in the classroom. There's more room to move around in the classroom. So there were some of those more soft pieces that they felt really did contribute. And the infamous one that several of them said was, well, my students didn't really complain about behavior at all. So meaning to them, it was, it was a nice and collected and orderly classroom. So it was kind of a deficit model agreement of that. So there's that. And then the last thing is a student survey. And really, while I did the survey, I really don't feel like I could reach any conclusions based on it. I really just given it as a single data point. So I really left it as a non-answer. So then the conclusion. So the relationship metrics did show there was some benefit. I think that was, in my opinion, that's what happened. But several of the quantitative metrics did not seem to align to those conclusions. Staffing for FY20, which is our coming year, has already been determined. It's determined typically in January or December. So next summer we'll have a second set of metrics. We can kind of compare some of that. Some of them will have to change a little bit because remember, while families and teachers experience a difference this year, next year it'll be rolling another of the same thing. So it's going to have to be a little bit different set of questions or different type of information I collect. But that will give us a little bit more insight. And then, so lastly, just a reminder that if we did need to make any changes or it's a decision to look at a different variation on this, then those decisions would need to be made in December or January for the upcoming year. Some of that has to do with just hiring processes as well as processes that we would need to complete. So I'm certainly open for any questions or any comments or clarifications.
And George, you want to share kind of what you were talking about for FY21 with class size?
I don't know what you're talking about.
So I have I just hate to do it because it's going to be her district.
Yeah.
One of the things we were talking about is, any big initiative, you do have to give it more than just a year.
Oh.
That won't might be worth discussions of what could be, but in order to be fair to give it. So that's the piece.
Right. Mhm. That was basically it, that, you know, we, this is the first year, and just like with any change, we have to just look at some trend data and see where we're at next summer, like you stated.
Yeah, I think for the math, yeah, I agree that this is 1 year of data. So appreciate you collecting it and then, you know, analyzing it. I think for the math growth, you have to actually disaggregate what you say is a strong growth in math versus several other grade levels and readings are not up to expectation. Because I think, you know, obviously strong math growth is a good thing. And even if you can attribute it to something else this year, but if you see the same thing next year, you know, I'd just like to really understand that a little bit better in terms of analyzing the data. You know, attendance rate, you know, I have some questions about that because, you know, if we're already up above 94%, you know, what were the contributing factors to absenteeism? Was it actually people ill, which I don't care how small you change your class sizes, if a kid is ill, they probably shouldn't come to school. So I think we have to look at what are we measuring with the attendance rate. Are we just measuring the arbitrary absences, not those that are calling sick, or even if you can tease, is it possible to tease out that data? And then also, what is considered a high attendance rate? Are we trying to get to 100%? You know, I think we just need to have a benchmark upon which what we're trying to meet if we're going to use attendance rate as a factor in this analysis of whether small class sizes have an impact. So I think we just need benchmark data for that. Referrals, I think that's troubling. I'd like to understand a little bit more outside of this, you know, impact of small class sizes analysis, why we have such an increase in referrals, and was that a change in processes as well? Yeah, so there's a lot of things. I think it's a good conversation at this point, but I don't know that we can, you know, really say whether small class sizes are beneficial to our district given the cost, or not beneficial given the cost, because it's just 1 year of data, and, you know, I don't know that we've really kind of disaggregated some of these areas enough to analyze them. So that's my thought. That's my thought on it.
So to take a look at it from a couple of different perspectives. I mean, if this conversation was not about class sizes, but discipline referrals went up, attendance went down, reading scores went down, but math scores went up, that would already be identifying certain things that we would need to take a look at, right? So if you separate out the class sizes, I mean, the research shows that if you reduce class sizes, you should see a minimal gains, right? But if you reduce class sizes and you differentiate instruction, or you change the way that you're teaching, right? I mean, if you have a class of 18 and a class of 30, but you do the exact same thing with them, you'll get very similar results. So I know it's part of our strategic plan goal, but I think it's going to be really incumbent upon us to make sure that with that differentiated instruction piece, we definitely hammer home the idea that just because you have a smaller class, if you teach it like it's a big one, it doesn't. And I know that that's not everybody. We got a lot of teachers in this district who probably did a lot of different work, but we also had a lot of new teachers, right? That would need continued professional development, because as we reduce class sizes, we brought on more staff, right? So I really think that differentiated instruction goal is going to be a big one this year, and something to watch closely.
Agreed, and then in the future, looking at, as Carla was saying, to the return on investment, the cost-benefit analysis, once you have a couple of years of data, because this piece, plus the changes with Prairie Crossing, is why our budget trend line started going downward. And our board, we made a conscious decision to do that. So I'm just supportive of that, and making sure, as Joe and I talked about on the phone, making sure our teachers understand the importance of the differentiation goal, and just because class sizes are here doesn't mean they're here to stay. And there's got to be, not in a threatening way. You all know me, I'm very positive cheerleader thing, but they have to understand that the instruction has to change. So, and I think it's incumbent upon us to make sure they know that the expectation is. And
And I think just to Steve's credit and his team's credit, they worked on that this year as the first year. So Ann Goldbach and I were laughing before because it's like differentiated instruction 2.0.
Exactly.
The reboot, because we've done it, the reboot, the second series, because that was a huge, for those of you who've been around, that was always a huge piece of our district, was differentiated instruction. And it means something different, I think, than it did back when we were all really focusing on differentiated instruction. So I think it's the first year of really refocusing on that and what that means, because our students are very different and have very different needs. So I agree. And the other thing I think that we all agreed upon when we talked about it separately is just being cautious of, not going out on a tangent because of one data point. So, let's say we're concerned about that attendance piece, and then we put a lot of time and energy into attendance, and then we realize, well, that really wasn't, the next year it balances out. So I'm in total agreement of looking at the trend numbers on all this and see where we're at, and letting our staff know and our teachers know, like, here's what we found our first year. Why do you think this is happening? Why do you feel that, where do you feel we should be changing and looking at whether it's differentiation or whatever or referrals or whatever the issue is, because I think they have a lot of the answers of how we could do better in certain areas.
Yeah, the whack-a-mole education methodology.
Right.
We have to stay solid, and I think we built a good base on a lot of things, and I think that will definitely help to pay off. By all means, I think those are some really great points, Carla, and as well, Joe. I think we do have some things I can certainly provide some backup on some of that. And you're right, sometimes when I see, as I mentioned, it's my lens. So as I'm looking through pieces of data, I'm making some conclusions in my head. I need to make sure that I make sure I articulate those in the report as well, so you have some context for that.
Okay.
Right, because even the reading data, I'd like to understand the benchmarks a little bit better, and some of, and you know how it is. If certain things are high, you're not necessarily going to improve upon those things because you can only get so high.
Yeah.
So I would just like to understand some of those benchmarks, and what are some, based on educational research, what are some, what's considered high, what's considered low. So it's, for the next presentation or the analysis next year, that would be helpful.
And Carla, it's Joy. Steve will be including that in our annual achievement presentation too, which is next month. So those the questions you had about benchmarking and maps and what the research says and where our goals that we're shooting to, he and Lori and I have already talked, and he's got that layered in. So we'll add the benchmark piece to that for August too.
Great.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Anything else? All right, next we have a written report on solar panel update. Chris Bobeck has provided an update on the solar project in your board packet. Chris, any additional information you'd like to share?
I can just give you a brief overview of what's happening. We're doing this in 2 steps, so we don't affect any of student learning and don't have any type of construction while the school year is in effect. The first part of the construction that's going to happen this summer is going to be on the inside of the building, headed out to where the solar panels are going to be. They'll have the connection to the mechanical room, and then they'll lay the lines out. They'll go out to the solar fields, and then the beginning next summer, that's when the lion's share of the work is going to happen. That's when you'll actually start to see the panels and the racking go up, and they're expecting energization by mid-July, late July, and early August for each of the sites. They'll just do them one on top of the other on top of the other. So I think that's kind of it in a nutshell.
How much money is that going to save us?
It's going to be a sliding scale, but over the period of 20 years, we were talking, I think that was over $3 to $4 million. I have to take a peek at that. The scale is going to go up as the years go on because the rate that they're charging versus what energy should do is going to stay a little bit more constant. So it's going to kind of build and build and build as it goes. I can't believe I don't have that on the top of my head.
Yeah, I think it was the 2934, something.
Just
But
curious.
we'll put it in there for next week.
There've been some delays. Can you speak to the delay?
Sure. Initially, what the goal and the plan was is to have everything up and running before school started this summer. Unfortunately, what happened, the program that Illinois released with the lottery system, that was delayed once they received all the applications. So the contract with Siemens, who's going to be providing the solar panels or providing the work on the solar panels, was delayed a little bit. And once everything was finally adopted and awarded by the state, then there was a mad rush to get contractors. There was a mad rush to get panels. And without having the notification that we were awarded, Siemens was not going to actually have panels purchased prior to and not going to have contractors in, because if we didn't get the award, then obviously they wouldn't have any work to do. So there were delays in both the racking system that was supposed to come, actually developing the fields and putting in drilling the holes for the racking system, and also with the panels. So we had to push back a little bit. There was also some delays in permitting. We found out a couple of things. We found out that the middle school is not part of the Village of Gurnee, because that particular section of the middle school is actually unincorporated, so it's Lake County. Gurnee itself also has special permitting involved as well. So what Siemens has done to date is they've gone to the ROE to request the permitting for the work on the inside of the building and to lay that groundwork, and then I assume before the end of the fall they'll have all the proper permits from the Village of Gurnee and from the county, because you have to go through two different sites for unincorporated and obviously the village.
Okay. Anything else? Anything further? Okay, let's move on. Board improvements and operations. So we'll start with a discussion and update of participation in Gurnee Days. At this time, the board will discuss and confirm its participation in the events they will participate in during Gurnee Days.
So we have our three key pieces, as you've seen through your email communications. And I know that week there's a lot of board members that are on vacation and have family commitments. But first, is anyone available to attend the testimonial dinner? What's interesting for us this year is it's honoring one of our former employees, Ms. Cheryl Ross, Mrs. Cheryl Ross, and her husband David. So if you can just let Laura know by Monday, no later than Monday, and we'll get you signed up for that. Okay. The second piece, Laura, is rib eating and exchange.
Sure. So the second piece, Derek Strait, who's here tonight, and Pablo will be our representatives this year in the rib eating contest. So he's going to be practicing until that time to get us into first place.
Second year in a row, by the way.
Right. So he last year he decided he wanted to do it again to get back up there. So it happens at 3:00 on the main stage. So if you're available to come out and just cheer him on, it's super fun. We also have a lot of our administrators and leaders that have volunteered to help at the Gurnee Exchange Club Rib Fest. So it's 3 to 6 o'clock. We have a lot of fun doing it. If you're available to come by anytime and work with us, I know you've done it in the past, Lizzie. But if you're in town, it's really fun, and the families love seeing you. The kids love seeing you. But it's work, but it's a good time.
And that's the Saturday, right?
That's the Saturday from 3 to 6. So you could watch Derek and Pablo in the rib eating contest, and then you can come back over and serve ribs with us. It's really fun.
I won't be serving ribs after I eat them.
Right.
Digesting.
So that's what's going on for us on Saturday.
So when do you need them to let you know, Laura? Can they just stop?
No, I need them to know because in order to do it, I have to let the Exchange Club know, because you have a T-shirt and everything. So just let me know by next Monday if anybody's interested.
And then our third event, which is a main one for the board, is we walk in the parade. And I would be remiss if I didn't highlight Mrs. Elizabeth Sanchez-Pezzi, who's here tonight, along with Jordan Anderson, not to put him on the spot, but I'm going to. Could you share a little bit about what your plan is? And they, last year was our first year that we built this with the community. Elizabeth and Jordan have done an amazing job getting the community involved again.
Yeah,
and then
we
at the
really
end of
want-
this, we want to find out if you guys can walk with us.
We really want first place, so.
See?
And I'm a horrible drawer, or else I would have submitted a really nice little design for you. But what we wanted to do is the theme this year is Hooray for Hollywood, and so we wanted to somehow think how could we incorporate hashtag Life in the W with Hooray for Hollywood. So we're going to have a float that has marquees on each side, and instead of lights, camera, action, it's going to say lights, camera, learn. And it'll say Woodland School District 50 over the marquee with giant W's and giant popcorn containers and popcorn in it. Then we're going to have students or volunteers that typically in a parade they have, if you look in front of a float, there's a line of people that carry a sign. And we're going to have a fancy little sign with individuals in the front of our float that says hashtag Life in the W. And then all of us are going to be handing out wristbands that have our district name and the hashtag. So hopefully they leave with the Hooray for Hollywood and the little bracelets to remember us. Every school will have a gold star. So there's going to be gold stars displaying each of our school names out there as well.
And there's a date that you're building?
Yeah, on August 3rd, so we're really ambitious. We're going to get everything together, and we're spending all day August 3rd until we're done, and we're going to begin at, let me give you an exact time, 9 a.m., and we think we're going to get done by 1, because all of our three,
One.
we're newbies,
One.
we'll see, we may underestimate ourselves, but we're going to start at 9, we'll go until we're done. All of the things are being built beforehand. Jordan and I are going to meet to look at everything, measure, and kind of pre-assemble some stuff, so then when everybody gets together on Saturday, we can just put it out. That's what our so we're really excited. We'd love to have anybody walk with us.
I'm excited.
Okay.
Are you in?
Okay.
I'm excited. You know,
All right.
I'll definitely walk.
And your husband and your children?
Kids,
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, we'll be there.
Wonderful.
All right. Well, thank you.
Look, David, and we'll make sure Nasima knows, any board member, we encourage you to walk. I know you're out of town. I'm out of town. Yeah, you'd be welcome.
Probably have to walk with my wife, I'm sorry.
That's right.
I'll represent for you.
Yeah,
you
you-
And Joe.
we're-
I go twice though.
We'll let you know where
Okay.
what number it is and
I
where
could
she
always
is,
run
and you can
back
just
and-
run
yeah.
around. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we'll,
Family heartbeat.
Laura and I can send out a note on Monday, and you can let us know.
It really is the first time that we're blowing out the Life in the W, so we've kind of kept it under wraps. We haven't put it, so this is really the first time we want the community to see it, so that's what they try to do, so it's super exciting. We've all wanted to do things this summer and with social media, and we've had to, kind of calm ourselves down, so it's exciting.
And what was neat about that was an outgrowth of the strategic plan too, and a lot of our students from Warren, they're like, we are Warren, that's what we do, and at Gray's like, we are the Knights, Rams, so they all have their unity, so we were trying to bring that unity together, so. That's it. Okay, so any questions about what the events are for Gurney Days? Alrighty, great, thank you.
All right, status of requests from board members, recap future board items and correspondence. At this time, there is no correspondence or FOIAs for the month of July, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So then we're back to citizen statements. At this time, if there are any members of the audience who would like to provide a citizen statement, please come forward. Sure. This could be really fun. All right. There's no need to return to closed session?
No, sir. No.
Okay. If there is no additional business, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Right?
David,
Yes.
Carla,
Aye.
Joe,
Yes.
Lizzie,
Yes.
Jennifer, Renee,
Yes.
Nasima. Motion carries 5-0.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Night, Carla. Talk to you
Happy
later.
birthday, Lizzie.